Good afternoon, everybody in the world. My name is Frances Khalashji, and you are watching or listening to the Better, Bolder, Braver Marketing Masterclass. You will probably have missed us because this used to be a weekly occurrence, and now we're going with the scarcity option of it's probably going to be about once a month. So it's delightful to be here with you all. And thank you to those of you who have already started to check in the chat. I would love to know where you are dialing in from, as it were. And also, it would be really good ahead of this fabulous session to know who your biggest inspiration is. And we have an incredibly inspiring person here today, Melanie, who is part of the Better, Bolder, Braver community, Melanie Kovacs. And Melanie is also the co-founder. She's a business coach and the co-founder of something called Joypreneurs, which you will hear all about in a second. It's another community. It's a community for women in innovation who want to build something of their own with ease and joy. And we've really enjoyed getting to know Melanie over the months that we have had her in the community. And she's also in another community that Simon and I are part of called the Happy Startup School Community. And in case you're wondering where Simon is in Montenegro. They're on holiday. And it seems that they do not have any internet in Montenegro. So I will continue to check whether or not Simon is able to join us, but it's looking unlikely. But that's fine. We miss you, Simon, but we will be okay. And everyone will be pleased to see that I seem to have managed on the tech front so far. So that is good. Now, I'm going to hand over without any further ado to Melanie. Melanie, how are you arriving and why do you think you are here?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. And I'm very excited for this conversation and to see where it goes. So I am arriving. How am I arriving? It's super hot here. So arriving and there's a lot going on. So lots of events in person taking place again. So I feel like it's good to sit down and have a conversation. And yeah, I'm also in a mood, I think, of celebration. I feel like it's really been 2.5 years of like going more within and exploring and figuring things out. And now, yeah, it's one of the first podcasts that I'm doing again, and I'm very excited to do this with you, Francis, and the Better Bolder Braver community.
Thank
Oh, and I
you.
see there's some people from Switzerland joining
Yeah,
too.
there's a few people dialing in
Ah,
from Switzerland.
yeah, I
Is
see
that
Nadine, Sophie.
German Switzerland or Italian? Sorry.
No, this
Yeah.
is the
What?
German-speaking part.
So
Zurich
Zurich,
and
and then where else?
Nanikon is also is close to Zurich.
Oh, okay, cool. Hi, ciao, Carlos. Va bene. And who else have we got here? We've got all the languages. Excellent. What else? Some Canadian action. Fabulous. Stroud, or should I say Strood? How do you say Stroud, Ray? You can't tell us because you're not here. Strood. I'm from Stroud. How's that? Was that any good, Ray? Stroud.
Fabulous.
Brilliant. So, right now, what I want to know is your story. So, what we're all dying to hear is what is Joypreneurs? Where were you before it all started, and why are you doing what you're doing now, and how does it relate to what you were doing before? If that makes sense.
Okay, so where to start? So Joypreneurs is a community for women in innovation who want to get some clarity on where they are headed next, and they may want to start something of their own, maybe now, maybe later. at least they have a dream or an idea that they would like to start something of their own, and often want to explore what this means. Is it like a side project? Is it really like this a big startup, or is it, you know, just a project that they really enjoy doing, but it's not something that maybe go is the intention to like grow big and make money. So yeah, and how does this relate maybe to my journey? So and as you maybe can see, like this is evolving, right? I think the definition of what it is and what it will be is kind of, I think we're seeing it clearer and clearer the more we're also exploring and doing courses and bringing people together and doing coachings. So where I started, or where where I'm going to start the story for today's sake, is so I had this other company called Master 21, which is a coding school mainly for people working with software developers. And so yeah, at that company, and I started that in 2016 and then grew that company to about 5 people, and a network of freelance coaches and teachers who were teaching for us. And we were teaching also more and more for like companies like Deloitte and so forth, like basic coding courses for the idea that people speak tech. And yeah, at some point, after like 3 years and we won awards and stuff, I was like, oh my God, I kind of feel stuck. I felt like in a corset, you know, and wanting to, you know, all this responsibility to pay the salaries and fill the courses and make sure, yeah, the salaries of the team are paid. It was just like a lot. And I was like, yeah, not so happy there anymore. And I wanted a change. And so I decided then to kind of let go of that and hand it over. And then somehow this journey started of what's next for me. And yeah, so it's been about 2.5 years of exploring what I want to do next. And yeah, I feel like I have a lot more clarity now what that is.
And can you still feel, when you're telling the story, are you still able to identify with the feelings from when you decided to make a big change? Or do you think you've got so used to telling the story now that the words are just coming out, and you've been able to kind of separate yourself from the emotional journey, you know?
Good question. No, I think I can still feel the feeling like they had the responsibility on the shoulders and feeling like it's you know, all work, no play. And yeah, kind of feeling like I want to have some more freedom and fulfillment and creativity and kind of have that sparkle back. So yeah.
Okay.
I felt kind of stuck and disoriented. I didn't know like where to go from there.
Did kind of doing something dramatic feel like the only way forward for you at the time?
Yeah, somehow. I mean, I wish sometimes that I could have done this in a slower, more maybe thought through way, but I was taking a leadership program at the time in Amsterdam, and yeah, kind of that accelerated that decision so much that I really saw like, oh, I have this big vision that I want to go, but somehow, you know, this thing is here and I cannot go forward. So I realized very clearly, like, yeah, I need to kind of let it go. And yeah, because also I feel like I cannot fake, you know, how I feel. And because I was the one also then responsible for sales and marketing and, you know, engaging the team, I couldn't fake it and go on. Once I had that realization, I just knew that I needed to change something. And it could have maybe been an option to really shift totally what we were doing with that company, but I also thought like I wanted to be free somehow to just explore. And so that then felt like I knew it was the right option, even though it was really hard and it was really quick as well.
Yeah. You know, there's two things here, right? This conversation is of great relevance to to our audience of coaches for these reasons. One, around niching. So the reason I wanted to get you on this show was because I think you've got a really interesting story to tell about helping people who kind of look like you, if you know what I mean, have kind of gone on the same or are going on the same journey as you. So we'll get into that in a bit. And then the other thing is, if you feel like you're doing something that doesn't feel right and you do want to make a change, do you go about it by switching things up dramatically, or you're the kind of person who needs to just like slowly explore and then make a transition, and sort of land softly in something else without necessarily like disrupting the first thing? And of course there's financial ramifications along the way, and we talk in the Better Bolder Braver community about the work balance, as I've come to call it. And I think for coaches, it's a little discussed phenomenon, that is that you might have to work on something that doesn't necessarily bring you all of the joy in order to actually pay the bills, so that then you can transition into coaching in a way that feels sustainable, as opposed to like panicking into marketing or something that doesn't feel right to people you don't want to work with at a price that also doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think that's the other part of this discussion, which is really interesting for people to hear, is kind of how you're navigating all of that sort of stuff. But the first bit and primary sort of driver for this was, how do you know that you want to help people that have been going on a similar journey to you? So tell us about that.
So the niching question, or who are your people, your tribe, or maybe your ideal clients? Yeah, I guess it's an interesting question, because I think it never occurred to me that I could help people that are going through something totally different until I met your community. So it felt very natural to kind of help people who are along a similar journey, but maybe a few steps back. And so, yeah, it's I would love to have a smarter answer, but actually was never like something that I was like strategically, I'm going. I mean, maybe it has to do with me like automatically wanting to build like relationships also with the people, and caring for the people, and wanting to build community. And so I feel like, yeah, I like to be around other women who are ambitious and want to achieve things, and yeah, who like innovation and tech and design, and yeah, so maybe it has to do with that. I don't know.
But you didn't always, I mean, you say it like you've always known or thought that that's what you should be doing, but when you kicked Joypreneurs off, it wasn't necessarily women in tech, was it?
No, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we started actually thinking it's entrepreneurs, or mainly, or women that want to start a company. And yeah, I think that was more like where I felt comfortable teaching also, right? Because we started with kind of a group program. And so I kind of reflected, what can I teach? And all these topics of like transitioning, getting clarity, starting with why, and these topics, I back then I was like, yeah, it needs to be part of the program, but what can I teach? And I felt comfortable to teach also, to help people find their ideal clients. That is a part of the program, and then package it into an offer, and then launch that offer. So I felt like I've been doing that for quite some years now, and that's what I can help with, right? So
So what's then, just coming back to this women in tech thing, what has, last time you and I spoke, which was a couple of weeks ago, I think we sort of got to a point of, well, what I sensed from you is this kind of excitement about actually coming back to your tribe, this group of people that you felt connected to in a special way, that you felt that you were particularly qualified, as it were, to kind of be speaking to. So yeah, what happened in the transition of helping just women who want to start something to going back to working with people that have been on a similar journey or are going on a similar journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to just point to one or two things that happen. I think, I really feel like it's been more or less a journey of 2.5 years that's slowly closing now and a new one is starting. And I remember like pulling out like 2.5 years ago. And then, of course, also COVID happened and stuff, but being like, okay, I need some time. I will not go to, I mean, I couldn't go to events anymore as the rest of the world at some point. And felt like also I needed to just be by myself and figure things out. And so I consciously didn't like meet that many people for coffees and stuff, and dived into these new, for me, new worlds, right, of like coaching and online businesses. And yeah, and I felt like also I needed some distance from that other world, of like tech and innovation and startups. And yeah, I think now I'm excited again to go back to like startup events and TEDx events. And yeah, um it's interesting to reflect about what exactly happened. But I guess maybe
I'm
one.
pleased that you're talking about this, because this is kind of what I'm poking you to be saying. What I'm trying to illustrate is that I think there is sometimes the need for a bit of space, especially for coaches who are coming into coaching from a particular world. I think there is that sort of sense that you should be able to very quickly help people like you. That's a kind of thing that coaches assume often when they join our community. But I think there is this need for space, and like, especially if you're wanting to do something quite different. What I'm seeing is people transitioning into coaching and then wanting to, being told that they need to niche down quick in order that they can get clients. And then it might make a lot of sense for them to help people that look like them. But also there is potentially at least a bit of space, as you're describing, just away from the TED Talks, away from the tech environment, away from like, just like, I don't know. It's the equivalent of, I've been working in like Moorgate for 10 years. I just want to be somewhere else for a bit. Like, I don't have a terrible relationship with the area, but I've been doing that tube ride every single day and I need to just be somewhere else. Or there's actually some trauma, which we've seen in our community as well, where whatever you escaped from, as it were, it's a little bit too close to the bone to help people in that space. And so coaches do find in our community that it might make more sense to them to actually start, sort of working out a different niche audience to work with, and then working out how they can speak with authority and empathy, albeit coming from a different place, and using their story to relate to people that don't necessarily on the surface look like they're very similar. So this is why I wanted to have you on this, and this is why I was interested to tease out the space that you required in order to be able to come back with so much more clarity, I think, is what I sense about you now, and ownership of that. So I can see that Chris is asking, what was your journey into the underworld or the abyss? Is that an in-joke between you two?
No. I think it relates to the hero's journey, right? Like the hero's journey is basically, for the ones that are not familiar with it, is you kind of are in the ordinary world and you go about your day, not wondering too much. And then something happens, you get a call, and you get called to an adventure or to like the extraordinary world. And then you answer the call or you don't. But then and then you go on this journey of adventure and transformation, and you kind of, have highs and lows. I guess that's what he means with the underworld. You have maybe enemies and teachers, mentors that show up, and at some point you discover this gift and then come back to the ordinary world and bring it back. So basically that's what Joseph Campbell, for those who are not familiar with it, figured out, that all the, in mythology, all the stories, also Hollywood is using this model for all the stories they're telling. So that's what it, I guess, relates to. But maybe, if
No,
Chris
I
means
think that's
something
right.
else, then
Thank you for like giving people who don't know that a really good overview. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what is I think it's a good question. What do you think is there an underworld that you can identify and what happened that you've kind of come back from?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will go to this in a second, and I think it's probably linked to what I was going to say, because you mentioned trauma, right? And why I maybe had to leave that ordinary world, which I'm now just going to call the tech world for the sake of it, or startup world. And I think for me, and also why I needed the space and some distance and some time away. And I think for me, it has been really much about perfectionism, so much perfectionist, so much like hustle culture, so much like working hard, proving yourself, that I felt like, and many people being very stressed in these environments, that I felt like I needed literally distance to de-stress from like the people in this world. So I think that's maybe related to what you said regarding trauma.
Totally. Yeah. And to make the decision to go back to help other people, I think is not one to be taken lightly. Because I think, what can come up about whatever it was that propelled you to do this work, to go back there to help other people in that space. Like there's a reason why you decided to leave.
Yeah. I mean, it's never, I think most of the decisions are reversible, and I feel like if it's not the right thing, I will also happily adapt my niching or target group, so to speak. I usually always follow my curiosity, and so far it felt very different to back then, to being again at these events and in these environments. But yeah, I mean, I was asking myself actually the other day, am I doing it the hard way? Wanting to help women, especially that are also, they want to figure things out themselves. They're busy. They don't like to ask for help. So is it like, is this the right decision? But yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I think you can, there's two things here. One is we talk about marketing as another self-growth tool. And niching.
And so is entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And now we know that entrepreneurship is another self-growth tool because, and niching, I was going to say, is part of that because, settling in on niche is not just about like being able to be clear for the sake of your marketing. It's also about choosing the kind of tribe that you want to surround yourself with that is going to energize you. The people that you want to work with that are going to energize you and mean that your business is something that's sustainable for you. So there's no point picking an audience that, and then sort of doing all the work to identify their pain points and then being able to speak to the problems and the journey if actually working with those people is going to be either incredibly boring at best or quite painful at worst. But the pain points. Carlos said it. Working with the people that you love. And we had a really good reflection and confidence session, which I'm sorry you missed this morning, Melanie, in the Better Bolder Braver community, around this point about working with people that you love. And then how that kind of interestingly, and this comes back to what I was saying before, about like charging for your services, how can you build a business that you love and then charge for it as well, is like, I think, a problem for some people who are coaching. They've transitioned out of something they hate into something they love. And now they don't want to not do what they love. So they're scared about charging money for it because they just want to do the work so bad.
That's, I think, why Better Bolder Braver is amazing to help with that, right?
Trying our best. So we came up with this thing this morning, which Carlos has posted in the chat. Can we charge for stuff that we'd happily do for free? So how do we get more comfortable talking about how, in my case, it's if I don't charge you to be part of the community, I can't like run a community because I'd have to do something else. So for me, it's quite easy to talk about this. And I think everyone should have a similarly easy time explaining why they need to charge for something that they're doing to help people, because if they don't charge for it, then they won't be able to help those people. So yeah, I mean, it seems really simple on the surface, but of course it isn't when it comes to, you know, talking about money for a lot of people. So yeah, why don't you tell us about the model of Joypreneurs on that subject and what you've built so far and what you'd like to see it as?
Okay, so what do you mean with model, or
Like, is it a community? Is there a product?
You mean like the business model?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're figuring this out, to be honest, right? So it's very interesting, because when I was figuring out that Master 21, my previous company, was not the way for me to go forward, I was like, it's not the way to go forward because of 3 points. And one point is my role. So I didn't like being more in this manager role and selling and marketing courses that others would teach. But then also really the area, like, you know, teaching tech skills, whereas I feel like human skills are so important too, like creativity, communication, entrepreneurial thinking, leadership, whatever. Because the machines can do the, you know, computing stuff, and I feel like we humans need to nail our human skills, like empathy and all these things. So this was the second reason why I was like, no, this is not it. And then the third reason was like, oh, the business model sucks. We always need to fill courses. And it's always like, oh, launching another course, filling a course. And whereas I actually always wanted to build community. And I think I'm also building community. I just don't have a formal community with a price tag on it, like you have with By the Bolder Braver or the Happy Startup School does. So yeah, I think we're figuring out. But for me, I definitely, I feel like I'm finally like committed to say like, yeah, I'm building community and doing the coaching, and then the courses, let's see. So and there's of course lots of ideas. I always have lots of ideas. There's also ideas for retreats and other things, but it's as you also know, like step by step. And yeah, it's easy to get distracted by new shiny objects, and then like yeah, but so one after the other, right? So
yeah. Actually, I'm off on a retreat on Saturday with a Happy Startup School with Carlos and some others possibly here, called Altitude. And
so exciting.
yeah, and Melanie's kind of jealous because she's basically down the road in Switzerland and can't make it. And she said to me just before we got on this call, when are you doing a Better, Bolder, Braver Altitude? And I was like, yeah, I really want to, but like we kind of need to work on our business sustainability stuff, and then we can get to some of the more fun but may not make us much money stuff. I don't know. Carlos is it can comment how much money he's making off Altitude. But yeah, I hear you massively on the sort of like what is going to bring me joy, but also like what is going to make the most sense, basically. And what I'm hearing, what I'm interested to know is, why is community important for the kind of people that you are now you've decided for now, that you want to be exactly. Very difficult to make profitable, unless you count joy as part of the profit and loss accounts. So sorry, back to my question. How is and why is community important for the kind of people that you now are looking to serve, do you think? Why do you want to build a community for them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I came to the conclusion I just need to build my community, and not too much too much focused on what others need, because otherwise it's going to be again like not really what I want to do. So I think my idea for now is really build a community that I'm excited to be a part of. And I feel like I've been part of so many different communities, from like startup weekends, TEDx, Zurich, to like now obviously Better Bolder Braver and the Happy Startup School, who are like huge inspirations. And I feel like I finally need to build my own community. I mean, I know I'm already building community, but in a more formal way. And yeah, I feel like I'm not there in terms of marketing it. Who is this for and what's their benefit? I just know I want to have a community with cool people. Like I think I heard the term playmate on a call this week with you, with other collaborators who are in the area of like, you know, creating things, making things, wanting to share them, and with members that like to learn and grow and yeah, explore these topics of finding more clarity, what they want to do next, building things. So yeah, I think at this point it's just I actually read this in the Big Magic by Liz Gilbert, the book.
Gilbert,
I have it actually here. I'm such a huge fan.
Yeah.
I think that was your question, right, in the beginning.
Yeah. So the thing I love about you is that you basically, I ask you stuff and you go, I don't know. And then you answer the question. And then I relate back to what you've just said. And then you post somewhere that I'm really amazing at putting into words what you said and that you would like me to be your copywriting wing woman. So let me just repeat back to you what you basically just said, which is, I don't know why I'm building community yet. However, I really I like working with my fellow playmates and being creative, because I feel like what comes out of that is some clarity for myself about what it is that I actually want to be doing, which is exactly why people who join your community would actually get to a point of better clarity about whether or not they should be staying in their roles in the tech world or building something new, and being able to do either one with joy. But, you know, you're providing, as far as I understand, the kind of creative play space in the community that you want to build, which is, you know, what is so special about Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Chris wants to know. So you can let us know in a minute. Yeah, but I just love how sometimes easy it is for me to relay back to you what you say, and for you to tell me that I'm the one who's got the
I'm
magic.
so happy this is recorded this time, so I will totally put that into my Descript, transcript,
something like that. I've
got
a bit
tool, and then use it as my copywriting.
Oh well, do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, you use the creative space, don't you, to help people get clarity about what's coming next. I think is kind of what I've got from you.
Yes, and that relates back to the book, or why I actually was talking about the book in the first place, or why it came to mind. And because she says if she would ever write books for others, like it wouldn't work. Like for her, it's all about, she has an idea, or an idea comes to her, actually, for the ones that know. And then she writes the book for herself to get clear on what she's actually thinking, or, you know, to just play and imagine things and to follow this idea and her curiosity. And she never like goes there and is like, oh, I'm writing this book now for this audience and this is going to be the benefit that they're getting. Never. So that's why I was like, oh, I want to build community also as much for myself as for others. Yeah. So I think that's a little bit how I want to approach these things.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Yeah, no, that's great. It is a good book. And I think Chris is probably asking because Chris is your fellow playmate and somebody who champions play as a way to get clear on things. And yeah, thank you, Carlos. I did want to come back to you, Eric, who has asked in the chat, as you've been exploring, Melanie, what your business model looks like. What have you tried that has been most impactful so far? And actually this like links back to your decision at this time, not necessarily to like do programs and group stuff and you know, based on what you know, I liked your three things I don't want to be doing now kind of thing, and one of them was like group coaching programs, which may have rung an alarm bell for one or two listeners here who I think make the assumption that the best thing to do as a coach is to try and build a community and build a program. So it'd be quite interesting to know sounds like there was a bit of burnout going on there, basically. And Carlos has said we did a whole exercise on understanding our business model and trying to identify what was profitable and what was impactful. Very curious exercise. I don't know if Eric was asking you actually, or Carlos, as you've been exploring what your business model looks like, what have you tried that has been most impactful so far? But I'm gonna ask you, Melanie, that question. Yeah, what do you think might be impactful or has been impactful in building this?
Mm-hmm. I mean, impactful is such a big word, right? Like, impact for whom? Is it like impact in terms of profitable, making money? Is it impact in terms of people go on to change their lives? Is it impactful because you truly enjoy it? I feel like I came to the conclusion that I no longer want to change the world or feel like I can actually. So I know this has been very much and still is a topic for many, that you want to make this big impact and you feel like there's so much to be done and such huge problems, and there are, but I feel like there's also the risk of burning out, right? If you always feel like you need to do more because there's these huge problems and you need to make bigger impact. So maybe that a little bit like bracket on the topic of impact. That could be a whole, I don't know, conversation on its own. But back to the business model, I think for me, I realized also the simple things. I really like one-on-one coaching and having there like a clear package of, like, for me, I think it works well to have like a 3-month process. I wouldn't want to be tied down for a year or so, and I don't want to do single sessions, but maybe have like 5. For me, the ideal is like 5 one-to-one coachees at a time, and I work with them throughout 3 months. And yeah, I think one-on-one is a great way to get started, and to not even just to get started. Actually, I think it's also a very profitable way, right? If we go back to profitable, and I actually have the other book here as well that I'm a big fan of, The Prosperous Coach, that probably many people in the community know, by Rich Litwin. And yeah, so I think one-on-one coaching can be very profitable. And super impactful, right? It's not always like, it goes back again to the question, like, how many clients do you need? Or 100 clients? Oh, Simon is here.
Hello, everybody.
Just dial in after having a cocktail in the sun. Just say hello.
How's everybody doing? Apologies. I've realised what's happened. My calendar has adjusted the time zone for me. So when I look at my calendar, it's in local time. I thought my calendar was still in UK time. So
Okay.
I've planned my whole day around starting a conversation in 20 minutes.
Well, you're here now. You're here now.
No. Anyway, hello.
So you're in the same time zone, right, as Zurich?
Yeah, but you knew it was at 3 o'clock, whereas Simon thought it was happening at 2 o'clock. And because it's 2 o'clock, is that right? I don't know. Anyway, this is going to make for great radio, Simon. I'm going to have to edit this one out.
Exactly.
The podcast. Yeah. What we were talking about before you joined us was, everyone in the chat will get a point for.
It was about like also how many clients
yes,
you need,
one-to-one versus group. Yeah,
and also then how many clients do you need, right, to really,
if
you want
so
to
you're
talk
not the
about
only
impact.
one. Yeah, you're not the only one in the Better World Rover community who I think is realizing that group coaching programs are not necessarily not for them, but are bloody hard work if they are for them. And there are some people who've also, like you, identified that they just have no interest in running coaching programs, and not just because of it being a bit of a pain in the arse sometimes in terms of selling them and bums on seats and marketing them and the stress involved, but also just in terms of what energizes them. So yeah, that's another really interesting part of this conversation I hadn't actually predicted, was sort of how you can help some people listening in either live or on repeat with that, you know, making those decisions about what brings you joy as a coach, as somebody who's building a product and a service for other people. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I don't want to say I'm never going to do group programs again. It's just like we're consolidating. We did now 2 tribes of this Joy Accelerator program, a 12-week program for women who want to build a business they love without burning out. And so maybe it will shift a little bit, right? Maybe it won't be like 12 weeks. Maybe it will be shorter. Like we're reevaluating this. But so I will not say I will never want to run group programs again, but I also have... I work as a startup trainer at the university. It's like one course I teach for them, and that's quite nice, right? Like I just show up there, they organize everything, they get the participants, and it's I think it's a difference to running your own thing. If you just show up as like the trainer and the teacher, whereas you run your own group, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice practice. In fact, Simon and I have just finished a 10-session program that we were asked to run for the Association for Coaching. And of course, we have our Coaches Marketing Journey course for you all in the community, which is you work through it at your own pace model. And we're also building a group program at the moment. But it was very, very useful to have run a group program for another organization, as you say, because the experience that you get from doing that is valuable when it comes to then designing your own program. So that's another way to, as a coach, I think, play around, as it were, as we've been discussing, with whether or not that's something that you would want to do. Because it's one thing coming up with a concept of delivering a course and then selling the course to people and getting bums on seats, but actually then delivering the course is in itself a big thing, which isn't for everyone, kind of thing. So Carlos is asking, is the core challenge here trying to context switch between delivery, marketing, selling, and development of materials? Yeah, well, that is a big challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, and then there's also community building or care or like checking in with people, right? Like yeah, I guess it's what energizes you. Like one is more the task of like sales, marketing, and like a project manager, and then there's like community building, and then there's like the role of a teacher, trainer, facilitator. So there's like lots of roles coming together, and depending on what you're good at and what you said before, what energizes you, you may not want to run everything by yourself.
That's it.
I think there was a question before about we, right? I think Tracy asked when I say we, so whether I am collaborating. And so, yeah, for Joypreneurs, I do have a co-founder for this community. So, yeah, so that's why I say we.
Yeah, and in fact, funny enough, that's exactly what I was just about to ask you to talk about next, was collaboration, because that's the other thing that we've talked about, and the other thing that in our community we help people to think about is playmates and who you might want to work with. And, you know, speaking of juggling so many balls, why it makes sense sometimes to work in collaboration with someone else. So would you, tell us your thoughts on that?
So for me, I think I'm very torn. On the one hand, I love collaborating and doing things together. And I think it's also a lot of fun. And on the other hand, I also love my independence and freedom. And just, I realized I'm a self-starter in the sense of I don't need somebody else to start things with. I can just, decide today I have an idea and tomorrow I launch a program and I just post it. Usually for me, that would be LinkedIn or something. And so this can be off-putting for others if I forget to inform them. And also sometimes for me, like, thinking that I don't need others, which of course is not true. But so I guess, to be honest, I think I'm learning to collaborate, because before in the previous company, I had a team, right? So I was the boss, so to speak. Of course, very like they were all driving their own areas and stuff and had lots of responsibility. But in the end of the day, it was my company. And yeah, and then it was kind of me exploring by myself for a lot of the last years. And now since a year, we're collaborating. And we started very slowly. Like it started with a women's circle, so a 2-hour online event, and then it started with a workshop, a half-day workshop online, and then I was like, oh, I have this idea for a group program, and I'm just going to check whether there's interest. And I was actually about to move houses, and I had that idea, and I really needed to share it, and so I was like, I'm going to put on LinkedIn whether there are women who want to create and launch a venture in the next 3 to 5 months, and for a pilot program. And I didn't have a program at all. I just felt like I needed to check, is there interest? And I attached a survey. I usually always add a Google form to see. And then I thought, like the 5 usual people suspects are going to fill in that survey. And then, oh my God, I was like moving furniture, and I saw, oh my God, another answer, another answer, another answer.
Wow.
And I had like 60 replies in the end, and not just from Switzerland, but beyond. And I was like, oh my God, it's a topic. And then, yeah. And then I was like, hey, is it okay? We do this together, whatever, and explore. So just to go back to the collaboration question, but yeah, that's how the collaboration then also started for the group program and step by step.
I love that story. I love that story. How you just, like, with such ease while packing up a box, thought, I'm just going to see if anyone else. And then, like, just immediately a little tribe was born of people who were like,
yeah, but then I get myself a little bit without thinking it through, right? And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now with 6 replies? And then I then like categorized them, and I was like, okay, we have 3 different personas here. I want to talk with them, figure out their needs. And then I got on calls with like 20 of them. And then afterwards we built the program.
That's pretty magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Like the completely unpredicted way in which something can be born and make sense. It is exactly the same as my story about like basically doing this. It just wasn't something that I'd really designed. Somebody put something past me as an idea, and I was like, that sounds cool. And then the rest is history, basically. So I've actually got a poll going, which I just want to make sure people have seen in the chat, which is I'd like for people to vote on, do they want to help people who are A, on a similar journey to you, or B, going through something completely different? And the votes have started to come in, and we have 5 people who voted on having wanting to help people on a similar journey to them, and a couple of people who are wanting to help people who are going through something completely different. So, I think this conversation, there's a couple of questions also in the chat that I just want to make sure you've seen and that we've asked. Melanie from Lauren, what did you wish you'd known a year ago that you know now? And a follow-on question from Carlos is, who do you wish you had known a year ago and who you know now? So would you like to think about those things?
Good questions. What did I wish I'd known a year ago?
I find these kind of questions really difficult.
Yeah.
on the spot.
Who do you know? I mean, Carlos, I don't think you want to hear that answer, or necessarily we're looking for that answer, but also to say that Carlos was my coach, and that greatly helped, of course. So to get more clarity on what I want. But who I wish I had known a year ago, who you know now? I'm not sure. Maybe there is some more context to the question.
I think maybe what the questions are getting at is, how can you help other people when they're starting a similar journey, which is what you need to be, where kind of where you're at now in helping Joypreneurs, women in tech who are thinking about making big leaps. Is there something that you would be wanting to convey to them, or indeed coaches here who might be thinking about doing something similar, which is to build a community or talk about a product, whether it's one-to-one or a coaching program, to an audience that they care about? You know, what would be your, what would you want for them to know before they or while they start?
The one magic thing, the one secret.
And like, who should they surround themselves with in order to help them along the way? Well, you've answered. Carlos is someone, but the question was, who do you wish you had known a year ago? It's a tough one.
It's a really tough one.
I don't think I don't think there's anything that I know now that I wish I'd known a year ago, and I don't think there's anyone that I know now that I wish I'd known a year ago, because it's having discovered the things and meeting the people and the experience of doing that has been the joyful thing, as opposed to the people per se or the thing per se. Do you know what I mean? There isn't a silver bullet, and we say this in marketing as well. Anyone that is looking for silver bullets should go everywhere but better, bolder, braver, basically. Because what they're not going to get with us is you need to do this, you need to know this, because it's just so subjective.
Except for the journey of consciousness, right?
You had to find the thing, didn't you? Had to be the clever one. Yes, Melanie's right. The only thing that is true is the journey of consciousness. Wow.
I think thinking about it, it's a hard question to answer, and even just thinking about it on the spot, I'm like, what would I say? And I think just relating to group programs or one-to-one, I think the one thing I wish I'd known a year ago would be that actually it's okay to sort of take it at your own pace and to adjust what you're doing. So even if you've got a plan and a very clear goal, and right, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and it doesn't quite work out, it's okay, and you can, expand that and contract that to meet what you want, based on where you're at and how far you've got towards that goal. I think I came into, or have been previously coming into stuff with quite a rigid idea of like, this is what's got to work by this date, or it doesn't work. And actually, maybe there's a bit more to, especially with group programs. I think it's having a bit of compassion and giving yourself a bit of space around that program as well, would be the only thing that came to mind for me.
Nice. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, I love it.
It's gone pretty fast. Where can people find you? Who do you want to find you? I'm going to post in the chat because I've got the links, but maybe while you're answering the question of who you would like to find you.
I actually do have an answer, I think, now to the other question, what I wish I'd known a year ago. And I think I'm starting to put it into words, so bear with me if I don't have it crystal clear yet, but I think it has something to do with also the book that I mentioned before, right? Creativity. And I think that's something I rediscovered in the last few years, creativity, that I was kind of looking for. And that sense of play and wonder. And I felt like I needed to put everything into one venture or format, or different formats, but one venture, and kind of monetize it, right? And I think by now I feel like, yeah, it's probably killing creativity and lots of ideas if you right away feel like you need to monetize it, right? If you want to start a podcast or a community or whatever, and you really want to do it, but you're like, oh my God, I also need to make money with that, you're going to kill it. It's like a small plant and you just planted the seed and you don't give it the nutrients it needs and the time to grow. I don't know, you put it in the hot sun and no water and you're killing it. So yeah, I feel like that's a little bit the thing, to not feel like you need to, or maybe you like writing a blog and yeah, that's okay. You don't right away need to make a business out of it. It's okay to just do this for the sake of exploring ideas, getting clarity on what you think, and yeah, having fun. And so, yeah, it maybe relates to that topic that we talked about, right? The Joy Project. So it's not necessarily always about like starting that next big unicorn when you have ideas. It can also just be like starting a blog, podcast, community, or something that you're just curious about, and by doing so you learn a lot, and you grow, and you get clarity about yourself and others, and what you like doing. And so I think that's probably the thing that I wish I had known a year ago, because I feel like I was more like pushing, oh, and we now need to have a group, how can we make the business model work, and also monetize it, and then thinking, oh, it needs to be a group program that we can package and sell. And so I feel like now it's more like, oh yeah, I do some trainings here and there where I get asked maybe for the university here or there, and then I do the coachings one-to-one, and then I do the community. And if the community, doesn't right away, I mean, we know communities take time, and if it makes money, that's fine. If it doesn't, it's okay too. Like, that's not the intention behind it. It's rather the intention of like, yeah, playing around, collaborating, having fun, being connected, and sharing what I learn, and that idea of creating. And so yeah, I think that I wish I knew that I can just put it into different like areas. Not one thing needs to cover it all, and fulfill the needs of like creativity and joy and money and and doing good, the topic of impact, right? So
yeah,
that's the answer there, I guess. And
thank you.
You asked where
you.
people can find me, but I think in the meantime you added my
posted,
LinkedIn, and yeah,
I've
perfect.
posted all the places. I just want to also say to people that so I think hopefully people have got a really good sense of Melanie from this conversation. Melanie is playing with the idea of being much more intentional about speaking to women in tech, but she is by no means only qualified to talk to women in tech. She is qualified and has experience in working with a range of people, and particularly likes working with women who want to be led with joy into something new, or in terms of a relationship with what they're already doing. So if anyone listening would like to work on a one-to-one basis with Melanie, that is what she does. And of course, the fact that you are able to work with great empathy with women in tech because of where you've come from, I think will serve you well in being able to kind of talk to that audience with a really compelling message and asking them questions that are going to be very penetrating and helpful. But as I said to you on this conversation, and I've said to you before, us relaying back to you some of the most amazing things that you come out with is part of the joy that we have in talking to you and helping you to put yourself out there, Melanie, and is kind of reflective of the work that we like to do with other coaches. So thank you to everyone for listening in today. And if you are listening to us on via our podcast, thank you for listening, and you can find us at betterbolderbraver.com. And this is one of a number of marketing masterclasses that we run in conversation with our coaching community, our tribe, and people in our marketing family that have other nuggets of wisdom to share. But there is no silver bullets and there is no one way. So yes, thanks all for joining us live, and we will see you probably next time, I hope. Have you got any parting comments, Simon?
No, sounds good. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next time.
See you. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. Bye.